Alrighty, let's take a look at question number 20. Question number 20, we're going to be assessed on how to solve literal equations or formulas in terms of specified variables. Okay, so let's take a look at question 20. It reads, the formula for electrical power P is P equals I square R, where I is current and R is resistance. The formula for I in terms of P and R is, so what on earth does this mean? Formula for I in terms of P and R. What this statement is telling you to do is simply solve for or isolate I. So for I or isolate I. When you have I isolated, you're going to have the other variables, namely R and P, on the other side. That basically means I has been expressed in terms of P and R. Alright, so if we get if we get I isolated, we have accomplished the goal of expressing I in terms of P and R. Okay, so we have the equation P equals I squared R. So the goal here is to solve for I. Okay, alright. So before we get started solving for I in this equation, let's do a real quick review of our inverse operations. Okay, let's do that. Alright, so review on inverses. You have to remember the following. So recall inverses. So the whole idea of inverses involves undoing an operation. If you want to isolate a variable, you have to break its relationship with other variables or constants around it. So you need to use the appropriate inverse operation to undo the existing operation that you have. For example, if you have multiply, what can undo multiplication? The inverse or opposite of multiplication is division. How about addition? If you want to undo addition, you use subtraction, and vice versa. To undo subtraction, you add. How about a quantity squared? The inverse of square is square root. So if you want to undo square, you take the root, square root. And if you want to undo square root, you take the square. Alright, so let's keep that in mind. Now for P equals I square R, we're going to isolate R in two steps. Do you see what the two steps are? The first step is to get rid of R, and then the second step is to get rid of the square. The relationship between I square and R is multiplicative. What is the inverse of multiply? Divide. So to get rid of R, we're going to use inverse operation. We're going to divide both sides of the equation by R. Okay, so see what happens here. These two divide each other out, and we have P divided by R is equal to I square. Alright, so now using the reflexive property of equality, we can rewrite this equation as I square equals P over R. Now the final move or step is to eliminate that square. What is the opposite of square? The opposite of square is square root. So to undo this square, we're going to take the square root of both sides of the equation, and that is going to yield I equals the square root of P over R. Okay, because the square and the square root cancel each other out since you're inverses. That's what inverses do. So expressing I in terms of P and R is I equals the square root of P over R. The answer to question number 20 is option number 2.